Well, hi, and welcome to another edition of From the Woods Today. I'm Renee Williams, and I'm here with my co-host, Billy Thomas, and we both work in the Department of Forestry and Natural Resources at the University of Kentucky. And we have two different types of logging and a tree tree of the week and cutting board. We just have it all today.
Yeah, Renee, we're covering a lot of ground today. We appreciate all being with us today. If you're joining us via Zoom, you can interact with us via the chat pod. And if you're on Facebook Live, you can use the comment section. But yeah, as you mentioned, we've got some of our wood crew. We have Chad Nyman's going to be talking about small scale logging. Chad's been building up a lot of experience in this over the years, Renee, and he featured some of this at our Woodland Owner Short Course this summer. So I'm sure it's going to be a great presentation on that. We have one of our good friends from Berea College Forest down there, John Heights, going to be talking about some of the horse logging that's been going on down there, and some of their some of the woodsmanship, how they're treating some of their woods down there through horse logging and the management of those woods. So it'll be interesting to hear that as well. And as you mentioned, we have the ever popular tree of the week, and this is a cool one. It may be fitting, the umbrella magnolia, since need some weather.
I need some of those.
Yeah, no doubt. And then we're gonna have Dr. Ellen Crocker talking about something coming up, a new conference opportunity, as well as we're gonna have Bobby Ammerman talking about cutting boards and how you might be able to get your very own cutting board. So glad to have you all with us today.
Yeah, we definitely do have a cram-packed show, so let's get started.
All
So
right.
Chad, if you want to turn on your video.
Thank you, Renee and Billy.
Hey,
So
Chad.
tell us a little bit about what you're going to talk about today.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the small scale logging program and a few of the different ways that we're using this equipment, working with landowners across the state, being able to demonstrate this equipment and how it could be used in their woodlands to be able to achieve their management objectives and be able to get the work done on the ground that they need to accomplish in their woods. And so I'll go ahead and I'll pull up my presentation and we'll go ahead and jump right in here. And so I work in the segment of the forest industry between logging and the sawmill up to that stage of drying lumber and handling that material. And so hardwood grading systems and markets are embedded in the middle of all of that. And so with this small scale logging program, we're really trying to demonstrate these different pieces of small scale equipment and techniques for folks who are interested in being able to use those different harvesting equipment in their property. And some of those different reasons that I hear a lot from folks of why they are looking to these different ways of harvesting their land themselves is that they might have a very small acreage that they cannot get a commercial logger to come out to, as there isn't enough material there, or they may have some very specific objectives that they want to implement that would exceed what a commercial logger may do on their land. And so we want to be really clear that this program is not any way a replacement for those expertise and services that are provided by those commercial logging crews. And this is not in any way a full inclusive logging or chainsaw training. And we do want to let folks know that there is a Kentucky Master Logger website where you can be able to search for master loggers in the state. I always like to mention the Kentucky Forest Conservation Act. We talk about this in the components when we get out on a woodland owner's property, when we get hosted out on a property and we are able to actually go through a full day program. And I'll talk about those a little bit more. But what that Kentucky Forest Conservation Act requires is for logging businesses to follow the appropriate best management practices for water protection. And they have to have a master logger on site for a commercial logging job. And so those private landowners harvesting their own property are exempt from being a Kentucky master logger, but they must still have an ag water quality plan for any property over 10 acres. And private landowners are responsible ultimately for any water quality violations that will occur on their property. And so a little disclaimer, logging is often ranked #1 in the most dangerous occupation according to OSHA injury and fatality statistics. And so a lot of folks may realize that felling and moving trees and logs is incredibly dangerous. So we just want to point out that it's probably one of the most dangerous activities you can participate in. And so that's where, a lot of planning and preparation and being cautious all are very important in these type of activities. I mentioned small scale logging field days that we've had. So we've had one of these up in Moorhead, Kentucky a couple years ago. A great forest landowner, Walt Ribka, hosted us up there. We had partnerships with that local Moorhead Division of Forestry field office and those foresters working there, as well as the local county extension office and that county agent. And so we were able to have discussions about forestry services that can be provided and how that relationship worked between Walt and his forester who helped him to make management decisions on his property, and what some of those different management activities looked like when they were completed. We were able to have a local log buyer talk about selling logs to mills, as well as those equipment demonstrations and being able to show folks different pieces of equipment that Walt was using on his land, as well as some of the equipment that we've been demonstrating through UK Forestry and Natural Resources Extension. And so when we get out into those day-long programs, we're able to talk about things like standing dead trees with all the dead ash trees that have been killed by the emerald ash borer. This is extremely important for folks to realize, standing dead trees can be very dangerous. We don't want to drive wedges into those trees. And if you have to fell those trees, you really want to use gravity and that natural lean. And so we're able to talk about different components like that and lots of other additional hazards that you might come into contact with, like steep terrain and slippery and wet weather conditions in the woods. Ways of logs and equipment getting hung up on rocks and stumps, vines up in the tops of trees that might connect multiple trees, lodged trees. There's many of these different hazards that we're able to discuss when we're out there in the woods. And so we're also able to talk about many different considerations that folks will have before they get into felling. And so talking about management objectives and getting them thinking about those management objectives and working with forestry and wildlife resource professionals to help them to fine tune a management plan and management goals for their property. And so that way they know which trees they're going to cut prior to their management objectives, and they know where they're going to take that material, who they're going to sell it to, or if they're going to use it for firewood on the property, saw up their own lumber with some type of band sawmill or other type of sawmill. It may leave it on the ground, depending upon what their objectives are. And so if they're going to sell that material, how they're going to transport it to those markets, thinking about those lengths and grades and different specs, as well as pricing with those local mills. So we like to talk about the different types of equipment and personal protective equipment called PPE that you will need if you were to get involved in these types of activities out in your woods. And so we've got, just a few of these different items here. We also talk about different things like hearing protection and wearing, good boots that are going to be closed toe and protect your feet, as well as chainsaw requirements and all of those types of things that come into play when you'd be out there in the woods actually cutting that material up and moving it around. And so we also talk about the bucking of those logs, the lengths that are desired, and how that's scaled. That way folks can be able to measure and scale the footage, as well as be able to estimate weight so that they're not running down the road with an excessive amount of weight on a trailer that it's not rated for that type of transport. And so we have a few different pieces of equipment that we like to demonstrate. And so one of those is a we've got Uniforest 55H skidding winch, and this is able to draw those logs in either with the cable or with the assistance of this fetching arch with a set of tongs that we've got set up here. And so we've got those different types of log arches, as well as that skidding winch, a log skid plate, and we also have a grapple loading log trailer that we're able to demonstrate as well. And so Billy mentioned earlier that we just wrapped up the 2021 Woodland Owner Short Courses. We do have a program coming up at the Kentucky Wood Expo where I will be demonstrating this equipment there on Saturday, September 18th. And that's going to be from 10 to 11:30 at Masterson Station Park in Lexington, Kentucky. I just want to real briefly mention that the third week in October is National Forest Products Week. So that's October 17th through the 23rd. And the week prior to that is actually Tree Week. So October is a great month for forests and trees. And I want to let everyone know that. And we have lots of resources in forest health, forest management, forest products at the website. I've got just this image right here, just the Kentucky Rough Grouse and Young Forest Initiative. They're supportive of cutting wood for good habitat management. And so I've just got that image in there for a plug for that program, but also tying this back to that good habitat management and those management objectives that some folks may have that guide their decisions they're making. And so to see some of this small scale equipment be demonstrated and any questions you may have, come on out to the Kentucky Wood Expo. There'll be a lot of different activities you'll hear about today from some of these other guests on the show. So I'll go ahead and turn it over and stop sharing my screen.
Well, thank you, Chad. We greatly appreciate you being on with us and talking about that. And, if somebody actually wanted to get involved in small scale logging, what is their first step?
So you really have to look into the different pieces of equipment that you would be wanting to purchase or use on your property. And so making sure that you're pairing that with the size of the trees and the type of equipment that you would have to pull it would be a good starting point for some folks, but everyone's coming at it at a different angle and perspective. So some folks may really need to figure out what's going on in their woods first and work with a forestry or wildlife professional. The Kentucky Division of Forestry, I think, is a great starting point for many folks. They do have a lot of interest in their services. And so there is consulting foresters that are available, and they're private business folks, and you have to pay them for their services. So that's another option. If you want to get someone out there to help you figure out, what you have in your woods and help you determine some of those management objectives. But anyone can reach out to me with any questions at any time, and I can help, with figuring out where they're starting from.
Yeah.
So Chad, that was a good presentation. I really appreciate it, but I can't emphasize enough, folks, get out there and see it in person. It's a little different seeing it on the screen like we're doing today, but when you get out there and see this stuff in person, it can kind of demystify it a little bit for you. And there may even be some financial support available to help purchase some of this equipment through a few kind of grants that are out there in the state, the County Agriculture Incentive Program there, as well as the Kentucky State University Small Farm Grants. So.
That's an excellent point, Billy. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Chad. We greatly
thank you
appreciate
much. Yeah. Look forward to seeing you at the Wood Expo next week.
Exactly.
Thank you all.
All right. So speaking of logging, but it's
keeping the logging train going, but with animal power instead of I guess some human and diesel. We've got John Hite with us from Berea College Forest. John, if you want to come on up with us.
I think I'm live.
You're live.
We got you.
Coming to us live from Berea. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Just happy to be here and tell people about what we're doing and trying to get an idea of what other options you can do with your forest and how it pairs with the small scale management that Chad just talked about.
Yeah. Now, John, are y'all going to be up at the Wood Expo as well?
Yeah, we'll be there both days. We'll be doing an in-person demo, skidding some logs around. We're not going to drop any trees. I don't think that's wanted. But we will pull some timber around on the ground for the guests.
Excellent.
So if anybody wanted to see it, whether the small scale with the mechanic or with a horse, they could see both of them at the Wood Expo. So that'd be something that they might be interested in coming to.
Yeah.
So John, let's explain a little bit about what you're going to talk about today.
So I'm going to talk about horse logging, or actually just animal power logging or skidding in general. And then I'll pair that with a concept called biological woodsmanship and talk about how we're applying those concepts in the Berea College Forest in conjunction with some other, well-established forestry practices. So a quick overview of everything and just touch base on a little bit of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Glad to have you with us, John.
Yeah.
Everybody enjoy this presentation.
Well, this is, like I said, an introduction to horse logging and how we're using biological woodsmanship to protect and invest in the Berea College Forest. What is horse logging? I guess is the base. Where do we start? So it's pulling timber products out of the forest with horses or mules or oxen or whatever animal powered skidding you're doing. This is a practice that really can be put into place. Berea is going to try to do it at a large scale with our 9,000 acre forest, but it's really works really well for small plots, people who don't maybe have, like Chad said, the means to have a big company come in and log or anything. They can maybe get a team of horses and log their woods by themselves, or find somebody that does the horse logging, come in and help with their management. But horse logging is just a tool for forest management, and like skid steers and tractors and four-wheelers all have their place, horse logging does as well. The animals. So what kind of animals do you use for this type of work? We have horses and mules are the two big ones, especially in this region through Appalachia. Mules have a huge cultural significance. And then oxen is the other big draft animal, but it's not as popular in North America. And I think a lot of that has to do with because you ground drive them. So you're often walking with the horse, with the oxen the whole time, as opposed to riding an arch or something that you could do with horses. Although there's a lot of ground skidding involved in that as well. For the Berea College Forest, we specifically are working with a breed of horse called the Suffolk Punch. It's an English breed. It's the only breed of draft horse specifically bred for agricultural work, which means it's a little shorter, stockier, and built to pull, which you could imagine would work really well with pulling timber, because that's just pulling dead weight, just the same as the animals might have been used to pull a plow or a mowing machine or a hay rake, other things that have been done in the past. And we enjoy it so much, we've done some of that in the present ourselves. Today, there's about 600 Suffolk horses in the United States and 200 in England. This animal is on the critically endangered list, or just the endangered list. It's on its way out. Historically, they're a work animal, not very flashy. So with the Industrial Revolution and the switch with farming and forest management and things going from animal power to mechanical power, we lost a lot of this breed along the way. Now, a mule, which is the other most commonly used animal in this region, is the offspring of a horse and a donkey. So they're infertile because they are a hybrid. However, they do really well in the heat, and traditionally have been a cheaper, more affordable animal that people could get their hands on. And all of the low-income people throughout this whole region would likely have a mule. Your mule would plow, log, do everything for you. It was an invaluable animal. So now that we've established we have animals, let's cover some of the tools of the trade, so to speak, which is similar to the stuff that Chad showed. Some of it even overlaps a little bit, but we'll go ahead and cover. So up here on the trailer in the left-hand corner, we have what is called a log arch. There's several of them there. We did a large logging event at Berea where we brought in loggers, horse and mule loggers from all over the country, and pulled about 47,000 board foot of timber in a week. And a lot of it was pulled with one of these, a log arch, which is a cart that helps to spin the log off the ground from the back. You hook your chain that's hooked to the log to that, and then you use it to skid. The horses hook into the front. Right below that, you see the picture of the inside of one of our trailers. We have our horse collars, some single trees, helmets, chaps, all your PPE necessary for felling timber with your chainsaw, and several harnesses as well. Next to that, we have grabs and a hammer, or skips and a hammer, depending on the region, depends on what you call it. But this is a device of chain with a hook at the end that you drive into the log so that you can skid it, which is applicable both for mechanical and horse-drawn work. And then here I wanted to point out the wedge and the chainsaw. As we're doing directional felling, the wedge is very important and useful. We use a cut called the open face hinge and latch cut on a lot of our timber, which is for safety reasons. It allows us to remove the heartwood and prevent things like barber chairing as we're felling timber. More tools. So if you pay attention here on the left, you see that it says tools display for the Berea College Mountain Day. So Mountain Day is a kind of historically significant day for the college, where the whole student body hikes to the top of the pinnacles and just kind of recognizes the importance of the forest and our local forest. So this is a display. This is similar to what we'll set up at the Wood Expo on the 17th and 18th. We'll have all the different pieces of equipment, the horse log arch. I'll be there. I probably won't have my lucky mug, but just in case, everybody needs to know. But this is a lot of the typical day-to-day stuff that we'll use. Chains, skips, and if we come over here, we see not a cant hook, but a PV, which is essentially the same thing as a cant hook with a pointed end, so you can pull chain under logs and things like that. And then in the center, we have a good picture of a team of good Suffolk punch horses on a log arch. Now here we have a couple of videos. We tried the links out and they're really choppy. So what we're going to do is just play the embedded videos and hope that that gets the point across. So. So I selected that video to show that two things. We're moving pretty large lumber. We can move very large lumber with these horses. You're not really sacrificing the ability to pull a large piece of timber because you're using horses. And the other thing is how it meanders through. If you notice, we're able to have skid trails that are, kind of work with the natural environment, follow natural curves, and avoid damaging trees because we buck the logs in the woods and pull them out a piece at a time when permitted. Other times we may be able to pull more, but oftentimes it's a couple pieces or one log, depending on what size we're going to sell to the mill. And then here is an awesome example of what one horse can do. This is a single horse pull up a pretty steep grade with a white oak log, unassisted. So this horse isn't being driven, it's all working on voice command. And this is one of the horses named Willow, and she's a Suffolk Punch draft horse. See that nice oak log? That's not a light log, but she was able to handle it well, pull it up the steep grade, and just stopped at the landing for us. So one of the important things I want to point out from that video are the skid trails. So I've been on several log jobs, a lot of log jobs, and skid trails usually don't look like this. As you can see, these are all fixtures taken in the forest at different log jobs, different times a year, but we just kind of create a small path. We're able to work with what's there, and by the time fall comes around, the leaf litter covers the ground. You can hardly even tell you've been in a log except for stumps and tops. And here you see where we put a water bar in, which is required for best management practices, but there was no need for us to bring in large boulders, rock, anything like that. We just put a water bar in with wood, and it sheds water well. There's not really any erosion issues, and we didn't lose our topsoil moving logs in and out of the forest here. Here's another picture on the right with log landing, several pairs of animals tied off. And you can see that road, and with how many animals and equipment there's been a lot of activity, and it's just fabulous. So what we'll use in the break a concept called biological woodsmanship. And this is kind of a framework for what we're working on. This was developed by Jason Rutledge in Virginia, and it's the worst first single tree selection model of forest management. So the idea is we are taking dead, diseased, and dying trees, but we're also taking overcrowded, lots of epicormic branching. We're trying to increase the health of the forest and harvest those trees when their financial and ecological peaks meet. So if you think of it as a graph where they intersect would be the best time to harvest. So there's a rule of thumb in ecology that says, a principle rather, that median disturbance equals maximum biodiversity. So by replicating median disturbance through single tree selection in the forest and dropping these trees and pulling them out, we're able to create more diverse ecosystem, both for the trees by allowing things like this nice white oak right here, because this is a logged area. This white oak was left intentionally as a seed tree to provide mass for the animals in the environment, and just, you know, left to spread its genetics. Eventually this tree will be harvested, and hopefully its offspring will be on their way up to becoming a bigger tree like this. And that's the long-term goal, is a healthy forest full of healthy trees. A little bit about our forest. We were established in the Mountain Day established in 1875. The original tract of land was purchased by the original forester, Silas Mason, who spent his own money to establish the Berea Forest. And that has now grown to a 9,200 acre forest that manages all the reservoirs and water for the city of Berea, which is a big reason we've leaned toward the horse logging, is the low impact nature of skidding with horses, reduces erosion, which in turn protects our watershed that consists of a large portion of our 9,000 acre forest, as we support 4 reservoirs. So along with the horse logging is just a component of the forest management, but right now it's kind of becoming the base component. We'll take out the dead, diseased, dying trees. We'll take out some selective timber, and then we come behind that and we do a timber stand improvement. So we're dropping a lot of maples out because we're managing for white oak and hickory in particular, but really on the white oak side. And then we'll come behind that, and different sections at different times are managed with prescribed fire. But eventually the logged areas with the horses will be, have a prescribed fire that helps with the management. Then we do a lot of invasive species management. The prescribed fire helps with that. There's a lot of manual management, and I've done a little experimenting with the goats for invasive species management as well. And all of this is geared toward hardwood regeneration, such as that white oak. But the biological woodsmanship and the horse logging is just a component to a larger land management product. So the idea is, if we manage the timber with good silviculture and good management techniques, that in time the forest will grow in value, because the poor quality trees will be removed and the better trees will continue to grow well and create offspring that continue to grow well. So this is a long-term investment for the college. You know, they're a college that's been around since the early 1800s, mid 1800s, and they'll be around long after I'm gone. So I hope that the work that these horses and we do in the forest is healthy, mature, or mixed age rather, forests with very healthy timber and a healthy ecosystem. Any questions? No, that was a lot to take in all at once. This is the back view of a log arch, the log hooked onto it, and a good team of horses.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that presentation. I greatly appreciate it. And, you know, one thing I was wondering is, what benefits do you see of using horses as opposed to mechanical equipment?
So there are several benefits, and I would like to point out that the horse logging does not necessarily equate to pulling the bad timber. You can also high grade and do things like that are done in logging with horses, but we're actively avoiding that. So the horse logging paired with the biological woodsmanship framework allows us to, we drop the tree. We'd use directional felling to avoid damaging the young trees in the stand. The tree is scaled and bucked in the forest, so it's cut to length. And instead of pulling that full stem out to the log yard and bucking it off there, you pull the logs individually or a few at a time, which really drastically avoids skinning up, damaging young trees, things that happen when you pull a big stem out. So we're able to protect the younger trees in the forest. And then by doing that selective harvest, we're leaving the better trees so that we can promote the health and growth of those trees and their offspring. But inherently, the horse logging is less destructive because you're not pulling full stems. You have two 1,500-pound animals, and their spot compaction is a thing, but this isn't repetitive spot compaction. You're going in and you're going out, and once the job's done, you move on. As opposed to putting a 20, 30, 40,000 pound piece of equipment on tracks on that same piece of forest, you're going to remove and damage a lot of the topsoil. You're going to create a lot of compaction. You're going to damage root systems of other trees because the weight pressing down on them as you're moving in and out. And you're probably not going to get to leave them better trees because your overhead is so high. Where I think that, a skidder tire might cost, on a big skidder, might cost as much as the majority of a horse logging operation at the small scale. So that kind of, this is small scale logging. You're not pulling out tens of thousands of board foot a day. You're pulling out 2,000 foot a day if things go well. But that management, that under the microscope, small scale, you're in the woods, every tree will hopefully produce a much healthier forest.
We did have another question about, what do the horses have to be, or do the horses have to be watered during a typical workday?
Yeah, it depends. There's different theories depending on which operator you talk to. If it's really hot, we're gonna let them have rest, let them have water. You often take multiple teams to the woods so that you can alternate and give them breaks. You work all day, but they get breaks in between. You're not pulling them logs, although you might be rolling them and hooking chains to them and walking up and down. But they're watered when necessary, but rested appropriately all the time. And It's the work is spread over the course of several animals, not just, we're not going to work them to death. You know,
Right.
the rule kind of goes that it's your safety, their safety, and then production. So
Yeah, very interesting. John, I've had a chance to see you all do some of that horse logging there at Berea, and a couple of things I took away. I mean, it was kind of peaceful for sure, you know, compared to like heavy equipment and other things, but you all were able to move really large logs, and the impact on the ground was so minimal. It was really shocking to me just how little residual damage there was from when you all were logging. So it's really neat, an operation. It really is. It can be very fitting. For what you all are trying to do.
And someone was curious if you have done any research on the economics associated with horse logging in this landscape.
I have, and I will say this, it's a niche market, and it can be profitable, but it can also be very difficult to be profitable. You're not going to get rich as an independent operator logging, not in this way anyway. Now, one good thing about this is you could have a niche market in an urban environment where you only remove big timber from graveyards, you know, where you can't bring equipment and destroy things. You know, you have that ability where your services will be paid for more than the logs will pay you. But you kind of would have to, you know, be very selective in your jobs. One good thing about it is there's so much work that you can kind of choose them better jobs if you wanted to be an independent operator. I know I get calls and emails constantly, and I'm like, guys, I have a full-time job at a college. I can't do that. I work their horses. I don't even own horses at the moment. But you can. It's difficult in a lot of areas that have already been logged really hard. You know, this region has been exploited time and time again by large natural resource companies, and it can be hard to find that timber to make it worth your time, and more large tracts are being logged off. But there's a niche through places like Berea College, Nature Conservancies, other large institutions in the Nature Conservancy, other large institutions that have tracts of land that they want managed for the future rather than a paycheck right now. So we're exploring it. I did a feasibility study on it as my undergrad research, and I'm still working on that. But I think that it's there, but it's definitely something you have to find and work for.
Yeah.
We also had a question on where the horses came from, and are they bred for your program?
Yeah, so these horses specifically, they originate from Suffolk, England, the Suffolk draft horses. And the American stock kind of came as the cull from the English stock. You know, that's what was sent over. But differences in management have kind of really affected the gene pool, where American stock was used as draft animals, and the English stock kind of, from my understanding, transitioned into a leisure luxury type of thing where it's almost a status thing. Where the people nowadays, we're coming into a conundrum where people who can afford the horses won't work them like they should, like they're bred for, and the people who need them can't afford them because their value is going up. But these ones, one came from Virginia, one came from North Carolina. And we do have a foal now. We are starting a small breeding program. We have a team of mares, and we're promoting the breed and training them. The young foal and the one we had before that are both going to be logging horses that are kind of the idea of us growing a program around these horses.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I was going to say, you all have got so much cool stuff going on at Berea there. I would encourage folks, if they've never been, to come check it out. You know, the pinnacle hikes you talked about, that is one of the beautiful scenes here in the bluegrass. It really is. It is a gorgeous, great hike. And yeah.
We're working toward the long-term goal of having a lot more trails that are open along managed forest areas, places that have been horse logged, places that have been burned. I know we just put in a small trail in a burn unit to show what the regeneration comes from after burning. We have amazing white oak regen underneath in the understory. So through long-term management, we're hoping to have a big stand of white oak.
John, it's great stuff. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us and bringing your animals up next week to the Kentucky Wood Expo. That's going to be a great treat for everybody. Folks, if you weren't planning on coming, come see the horses, right?
Right.
Come see the horses.
It's really cool. It is really cool. And yeah, good job, John. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. I just appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll have you back again.
no doubt. Yeah.
Hey, anytime.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.
Oh, really cool, Renee.
Definitely.
A nice segment so far on logging. Now we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit. We're still staying with trees.
Right.
We have Laurie Thomas with us. Laurie is doing her ever popular tree of the week. And Laurie, I did mention it earlier, but maybe if you want to mention a little more about it before you get into it.
So we have done one other tree. Well, we've done a couple other trees, but we are doing the umbrella magnolia this week. So this is a very unique understory, eye-catching tree, and right now it's fruiting. So I thought it would be a good time to do it. So here's umbrella magnolia.
Wonderful. Remember, if you have any questions, to type them in the chat pod or put them in the comment section on Facebook.
I'm Laurie Thomas with the University of Kentucky Forestry and Natural Resources Extension, and I'm here with the tree of the week, the umbrella magnolia. Umbrella magnolia, Magnolia tripetella, is a unique deciduous understory tree of the eastern forest and is particularly common in the Appalachian Mountains. It is one of 8 magnolias native to the United States. Another name is umbrella tree and elkwood. It has a relatively short lifespan of about 40 to 100 years, and trees typically grow 30 to 45 feet tall and about 10 to 12 inches in diameter. Umbrella magnolia has a coarse texture, often with multiple trunks with irregular branching pattern. This vigorous understory tree is known for its very large leaves, showy, large malodorous flowers, and attractive fall fruits. Umbrella magnolia has a small native range in the eastern half of the United States, with small populations west of the Mississippi. In Kentucky, it's found primarily in the eastern part of the state. This is a forest understory tree of deep, moist soils. It's found growing along forest streams, in coves, and on lower slopes, and it is an indicator of rich, moist woods. Umbrella magnolia is classified as shade tolerant, thus it's an understory tree. It can make an interesting and attractive landscape tree as long as the large leaves do not create a problem in the landscape. Umbrella magnolia is a deciduous tree with very large, alternately arranged leaves. The leaves are simple in form and typically between 12 and 24 inches long, with smooth or entire margins. The leaves are obovate or inversely ovate, with the wider part of the leaf at the top. And the leaf base is acute, like an acute angle, as compared to its relative, the big leaf magnolia, which have a leaf base that looks like 2 earlobes. And this is a really easy way to tell these two species apart. The leaves are usually crowded near the ends of the branches, and the leaves are green and slightly shiny above and pale below, and fall leaf color is yellow to brown. This species is monoecious, which means a tree has both male and female flowers with very large, showy flowers. The flowers are typically 6 to 10 inches across, bowl-shaped with 6 to 12 creamy white petal-like tepals. They have an unpleasant or malodorous smell and are solitary. They're not found in groups along the branches. The flowers appear with the leaves and are pollinated primarily by beetles. The fruit is cone-like, and they're usually 4 to 6 inches long. They're green when immature, maturing to pink in the fall, and the structures will eventually turn brown. The cone-like structure contains numerous spirally arranged bright red seeds. Squirrels, possum, quail, and wild turkey eat the seeds, and the seeds are dispersed by birds. The bark is thin and gray, smooth, often with numerous raised lenticels, and the bark doesn't change much as the tree ages. Umbrella magnolia is not of importance as a timber species due to its scattered range and small diameter size. The wood is somewhat similar to yellow poplar. It's easy to work, light, and somewhat soft. Umbrella magnolia is of limited importance for wildlife due in part to its scattered nature. The trees attract songbirds such as warblers and other year-round songbirds by providing seed and shelter. Squirrels, possum, quail, and wild turkeys all eat parts of the magnolia tree, as do deer, which eat the twigs, leaves, and buds. The national champion umbrella magnolia as of 2021 is in New Haven, Connecticut. It is 131 inches in circumference, 70 feet tall, with a 50-foot crown spread. The Kentucky champion is in Knox County. It is 31 inches in circumference, 56 feet tall, with a 30-foot crown spread. If you'd like to know more about champion trees, check out American Forest Champion Trees or check out the Kentucky Division of Forestry Champion Trees. Now for a few fun facts about umbrella magnolia. The common name of umbrella magnolia comes from the spreading leaf arrangement that resembles the ribs of an umbrella. Another common name is elkwood because the bare branches are said to resemble elk antlers. Native Americans of the Southeast use the bark, roots, and stems to make tonics for fevers and rheumatism. The scientific genus name Magnolia was in honor of the 18th century French botanist Pierre Magnol, and the species name Tripetella is from Latin and means 3 petals and probably refers to the 3 sepals, which are longer than the more numerous petals. I hope you get the opportunity to get out into your woodland, a local park or neighborhood, and enjoy the beautiful Kentucky trees, including the truly unique umbrella magnolia.
Well, thank you, Lori, for that. We greatly appreciate it. And one thing I was wondering is, would you happen to see this tree with other magnolias?
Yeah, so it has its range overlaps with big leaf magnolia, which is the one that looks so much like it. Its leaves are a little bit bigger, but like I said, the easiest way to distinguish those 2 trees if you're out in the field, because usually the leaves are way up high anyway, is that the big leaf, it has the base of it is like 2 earlobes or a B. And for umbrella magnolia, it makes that V shaped. It's that very acute angle. So you just look at the leaf base to know, oh, I'm looking at a big leaf or I'm looking at an umbrella magnolia. But yeah, they're both really cool trees. You'll see them scattered throughout the forest. We took some of those pictures down at Robinson Forest, and they stand out. And then when all those leaves drop to the ground, it looks like somebody's strewn it with paper because they'll flip over and the undersides are so white. They're really neat, very interesting trees.
All right.
Yeah, that champion was huge, Laurie. I
Oh, goodness, yes.
Seeing one that big. I mean,
yeah, well, I guess with that multi-stem, I always wondered, I'm assuming they measure below that.
yeah.
And there's the picture that they have for the Kentucky champion. It's not a very good picture, so I didn't include it. You couldn't really see it. So, but yeah, so go out and check out some umbrella magnolias.
All right, sounds great. All right, well, moving on, we are going to talk a little bit about cutting boards. We've got Bobby Ammerman on the scene with us to talk a little bit about that. Hello, Bobby, how are you?
Good, how are you guys?
Doing well, Bobby, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about what you're going to talk about today.
Well, there's cutting boards, not a whole lot to say.
There's a lot of things. It's a lot of things involved in cutting boards, though, from what I understand.
Well, when you get making a bunch of them, yeah, there's a lot of work involved. Absolutely. So yeah, I'm just going to be talking about cutting boards, give you a little bit of history about why we're doing this. And all this is done at the expo, or is being done for the expo. Now we do some of these programs here in Quicksand as well for county agents. They bring groups up and at various times, and we do these little workshops, and cutting boards is one of them. But I'll get a little bit of background about why we're doing it for the expo, and a little about what you're going to see and what you can do and that kind of thing while you're at the expo.
Wonderful. Let's get started.
So anyway, we got the Kentucky Wood Expo coming up here. It's already been mentioned a couple of times on September the 17th and 18th of this year, which is actually next week, Friday and Saturday. And this is kind of like the primary wood show for Kentucky. So if you're interested in wood products and timber and harvesting and forestry and all that kind of stuff, this is kind of our show to kind of highlight all that. Unfortunately, we only do it every other year. It'd be nice. We used to do this every year, have the show every year. It'd be nice if we were still doing that, but the shows are kind of changing nationally, and it's not quite as economically viable as it used to be. So we've been able to hang on and continue to do the show, but now we're doing them every other year. And I've been on the committee for, just give you a little bit of background about, again, why we're doing the cutting boards. I've been on the expo committee for, 20 some years. And we've always tried to figure out how can we make the show more hands-on? how can we get people more involved with what's going on? It's one thing to walk by a big piece of equipment, maybe even put your hands on it. But how can we, get the average person walking through the gate there that's attending the show? How can we get them more involved, hands-on wise with some aspects of forest products? And so, it just kind of made sense to me. It's, well, we do these workshops. We know a little bit about how they work and how we can do them for crowds and that kind of thing. And so it just seemed to make sense. Well, let's do a hands-on product. And we kind of settled on cutting boards. And really the cool thing about it is that all the wood for the boards are donated by industry. So there's really no cost to our department to put it on and do it. Industry provides the wood. And so the wood comes into quicksand down here at our wood utilization center. And then we make the blanks that we take to the show for you to finish up the cutting boards. And so we bring all of our equipment up there and I'll show you some pictures here in a second about what some of the equipment looks like and how we can keep everybody safe and doing it and that kind of thing. So here's just the first picture I'll show you. And so you can see we've got all our equipment lined up here and we've got kind of a chain of folks working down through there. So, we're doing some routing, and normally we have a drill press set up. Now this particular time we don't, but we will here coming this fall. So you get to cut a hole in the cutting board that you can put a little piece of leather in to hang it on the wall if you want to, that kind of thing later. And we do some sanding, and then, eventually at the end here, we'll do some finishing as well. And, it's we do what we can to keep everybody safe. These are kind of small hand equipment, but we've got them all well protected. And then we have volunteers, all these students that you see down through here in the blue shirts. All those are UK Forestry students. And so we spend a little bit of time working with them, training them on how to keep everybody safe or how to keep you safe when you're processing one of these. And you can see right here that we have a student really watching what this young lady's doing here. And she's got perfect form. Her hands are in perfect spots. So he's done a great job explaining to her how to do this and keep her safe and everything. And here's a young lady. She's actually doing some sanding work on one. You see how she's working on the end. So again, we've had a volunteer that's kind of showed her how to do that. I'm sure this is new to her. Most of these folks come through here and they haven't even put their hands on a drill or a route or anything. So it's all kind of new to them, and everybody seems to really enjoy it. And I put this picture in here just because it's, we don't do these just for the adults. I mean, we have some very young folks come through that participate as well, and they have a big time. And again, a lot of them, it's the first time they've been exposed to doing something with their hands and related to wood. And so you can see this little guy right here, and we even drag out a chair and kind of hold them again, keeping them safe. You can see there's two of us kind of watching him. It'd be very difficult for him to get his fingers in that router, but regardless, we're keeping a good eye on him and make sure that doesn't happen. And here's just a closer picture of him processing it. Boy, they really get a kick out of this. And here's a little guy doing some sanding work. Again, we got our UK Forestry student helping him there, showing him how to do it, showing him how to hold the sander and all that kind of stuff. And then we also get, bring oil so you guys can finish it, or the folks attending can finish the boards as well. And you can see here, he's put some oil on there and he's getting his hands all wet with it and rubbing it into wood. At that point, that seems like a real outward experience for a lot of folks when they see that finish go on those boards and all that natural color of the wood pop out. And then here you can see there's a whole family of them. Actually, these are Henry Chris's family here. He's a past president of the Kentucky Forest Industries Association, and this is his family. And you can see they, all the grandkids got to make one, and they're all holding them up there and pretty proud of them. So anyway, it works pretty good. People seem to have a lot of fun. So if you pay, you pay $7 to get in the gate or whatever it is, and then you get to take home a $13, $14, $15 cutting board. It sort of offsets the cost of coming into the show. So we really encourage all of you to come and participate. It's a lot of fun, like getting to see the horse logging and the stuff we're doing with the cutting boards, and there's other educational programs going on as well. It's a lot of fun. Next week, I think Matt Springer is going to talk to you about the critter tent and how how you can get up close to some gnarly critters in the woods. Just for a couple of closing comments, there is an educational component to this. We don't just provide these boards and let you make them just for free. Nothing's really for free. So we actually ask you to sit down for about 20 minutes and listen to a couple of the videos that we put together, one on forest health and another on the economic contribution that forestry has on Kentucky's economy. And so you sit down in a different tent, you watch the video, and the person kind of leading that aspect of it will give you a ticket, and you bring that over to the cutting board tent. We'll give you a blank and walk you through the process of making one. The program will run from 1 p.m. on Friday until the show closes at the end of the day there on Friday, and then we also will run it all day Saturday while the show is open. And I do put a little caveat in here. We'll do this as supplies last. I've never run out of blanks, but it's possible we could. We've done as many as 350 of these, during the show. So, I don't think we'll run out, but I just mentioned that just in case, so nobody gets too mad at me if we do run out. So with that, Renee, I'll turn it back over to you and available for any questions somebody might have.
Well, Bobby, thank you for that. We greatly appreciate it. And one thing, I know that you put a lot of time and effort into putting these boards together to actually make it. They don't come that way. You actually have to make them to put them together, right? There's a lot of wood that's different species in those cutting boards.
Yeah, we make the blanks because you can't do the gluing and the ripping and all that kind of stuff there on site. So we kind of have to prep those in advance. Again, the participant will do, they'll get to route them and shape them and drill a hole and put a hole on them, and they're still doing a whole lot of stuff to them. But the gluing part, the gluing and surfacing, we've got to do that, somewhere else in advance. So yeah, the wood's brought in from, like I said, from industry, and then we just process out the blanks and then bring all the blanks with us along with the equipment we need to finish them up. So all the wood is from locally harvested wood. It's all Kentucky wood. We use different species. Walnut, about every piece will have a piece of walnut in it, or about every blank will have a piece of walnut in it. And then we'll also, which we probably have some white oak in it, some hickory, cherry in a lot of cases. And then the cool thing is at the end, after you've got your finish on your board, if one of us is around, we've got little cards that we can help you identify what pieces of individual species you have in your board. And you can write them down on the little card and actually, put that on the leather piece that's attached to it. And, you'll have that for life, and you can always go back and refer to that to know what species is in your board. So
no, it is also fun, but it's also educational. So you're going to do both.
Well, yes, the board itself is educational in terms of wood identification, that kind of thing, and learn a little bit about how the equipment works and that stuff. But more importantly, we'll do this forest health and, economic contribution to the state is, as a requirement for getting the blank and starting the cutting board process. So, it's all education. We do try to make it fun with the hands-on, but there's a strong educational component to it.
Bobby, I think we've made a compelling case for people to go to the Wood Expo. So if you were in doubt about going to the Wood Expo, get your tickets now and show up on Friday and Saturday, right? You're going to see horses, you're going to get to make a cutting board, you're going to see all kinds of cool equipment. Great opportunity.
Well, it's our show. It's the only time of the year that we really get to highlight, the forest products industry and forestry in general. And so, yeah, come out. It's a lot of fun. You get a free, like I said, nothing's free, but you get a free cutting board and about pays for your entry fee. So, yeah, come out. Let's have a good time.
All right. Well, Bobby, we appreciate you really a lot. Great presentation. Look forward to having you on at the show next week. So folks, come out and meet Bobby in person and get your own cutting board. All right. So folks, Renee had to drop off. We had a little bit of technical issues here, but we do have one more quick little segment, and we have Dr. Ellen Crocker is going to be talking about an upcoming educational opportunity. So Ellen, how are you?
Doing great, and so far I still have power, so that's a good thing.
Yes, I know.
But the storm
Can't
is
say the
really
same for Renee right now. So
the storm is picking up here.
yes.
But I just wanted to really quick before you head out, let you know about a couple events that are coming up. We just heard about the Wood Expo. If any of you out there are looking for pesticide applicators, CEUs, we have an event that Friday afternoon that's free, and you can get 3 hours of pesticide applicators, CEUs, and that's on forest health and invasive plants. And in addition to that, we've got another series of forest health focused trainings coming up about laurel wilt disease, which is a new invasive issue in the state. We've got a webinar coming up next week where you can hear from experts around the region about this threat, its biology, the symptoms, how to manage it, as well as a field day in Hopkinsville coming up at September 21st. And both of these are free, and they also have pesticide applicator CEUs. So if you or anyone you know is interested, let them know, help us share the word, and hope to see you next week at the Wood Expo, as well as at these laurel wilt disease trainings, the webinar on Monday and the field day later in the month. So that's all I have to share. But if anyone has questions, please reach out and let me know.
Yeah, thanks, Ellen. Appreciate your work on forest health here in Kentucky and putting on all these educational programs and bringing everybody together. Yeah, teamwork makes the dream work. Great work.
Yeah, I love being a part of this team. So thank you for the opportunity to tell people about those events.
Yeah, it looks like Renee's been able to join us back just in time to let you all know that we're glad to have you all with us this week. The storms are kicking here in Lexington right now at the moment.
Actually kicked me off my computer.
A little intermittent power issues, but again, we appreciate you all being with us each week on From the Woods Today. Again, if you have any suggestions or things that you want to see us cover, we have a little survey that you can complete on our FromTheWoodsToday.com website, and from there we'll get your feedback and we'll be able to try to incorporate it into a future show. But I think we've made a strong, compelling case for you to go out to the Kentucky Wood Expo next week, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody there, and we'll look forward to seeing you next Wednesday on From the Woods Today. So thanks.
Till then, take care.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye, everyone.